Hi dear friends, thank you very much for joining me. This is Einat Kessler with Saturday Extravaganza. Today I'm going to alter a notebook in a steampunk style. Lots of gears and clock parts. This is the notebook that I have. It's kind of small but it's thick. You would need a thick notebook to prepare the cover. I'm going to use the Spellbinders Media Mixage square bezel. It's the largest one. It has a really nice shape and embossing on it, and I have a piece of chipboard that I cut to the size of the notebook, and I'm going to insert this. First I'm going to eyeball the width of the bezel. It's kind of wide, and then I'm going to insert the chipboard piece into the notebook, and then you have to take out a few of the pages, just tear them out like so, and this is to compensate for the width of the chipboard, because we don't want the notebook to be really wide and fat. We just want to keep it as it is. So just take out a few of the papers, and then we are going to adhere, we're going to glue the chipboard piece into our notebook on the inside, and this will give us a really thick cover for our notebook. Have to take a few more of the pages, and now I think that's enough, and I'm going to glue this to the page on the left. This is going to become the backing of my cover, so just put a lot of glue so it will be nice and sticky. Everything will make sense in just a second, because you're probably wondering why I'm adding this to the inside of the notebook, but I promise you it would all make sense. So you glue it like so. Don't worry if it pops up a little bit, because you can cut it later with your scissors like so. Sometimes when you measure it on the outside and you insert it on the inside, it becomes a little bit smaller because you can't tuck it all the way in. Now we're going to glue all the pages going from where we glued the chipboard piece to the left, to the start of the notebook. We're going to glue each page one to the other. Takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. Just put glue on the outside of the page, not on the inside. We're going to work on the inside. We don't want it to be glued all together. So like so. So all the pages from the cover to the chipboard are glued together, and we also add a little bit of glue on the edges. We're going to create a mini shadow box from the notebook. This is why we're doing all of this, a mini shadow box, and we need all the papers to be glued together so it will be easier to create that shadow box in the cover of the notebook. So this is our new cover now, and I'm gonna cover it with some Media Mixage Spellbinders papers, ephemera papers. I really like the patterns. So this is a kind of a steampunk pattern with the wheel and everything. This is the theme of the notebook today. So you just cover it, and the good thing about these papers that they're thin, so they're very easy to work with. They're not very thick, so they're really good for covering things, and just burnish everything really well with your bone folder. And you cover the whole notebook from the back cover to the front cover. Then add a one more piece of paper. You notice that I don't measure anything and I don't cut it before I glue it on the cover. First I glue it and then, oops, and then I cut it to size. Because whenever you cut things, at least when I cut them, I'm always scared that they won't be the exact size. Great, I just cut my sheet there. So I rather do the cutting after I glue the paper on the cover. It is much easier and accurate this way. So I just use my craft knife. So this is the covered notebook, and now I have a piece of chipboard that I cut that will very comfortably around the bezel. It's a little bit bigger than the bezel, and what I'm doing, I'm starting to, don't worry about that, I'm starting to cut into the cover, and I'm going to remove the front of the cover. It might take a few times with your crafting knife because it is thick, even if it's just the first cover. See, this is the first paper of the notebook. Now this is why we don't want to glue the middle part of the pages, because we're going to tear them out now, and if they were glued together we wouldn't be able to do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to tear out all the papers until we reach the chipboard backing. Remember the chipboard we put there in the beginning? So we're going to tear all the papers out until we reach that part, and as you can see, I'm not tearing them in a very accurate way because I want all those edges to fold out and to have that tear distress look. So I'm just creating a cut in the middle with my craft knife, and then I'm tearing the paper out. And what happens is you create a little shadow box, you see, in there, and the bezel is going to go inside that little hole, sort of a hole that you made in there in your cover. It's going to be tucked in there really nice and neat. You have to squeeze it in. Now I'm going to use the Media Mixage dies that coordinate with the bezels. So when you want to cut a paper or a fabric or whatever and put it in the bezel, this is the exact measure. So they coordinate together, and they measure up. That's really good. So I'm going to take the piece of the paper that I cut in the beginning out of the small shadow box we created on the cover and cut the square out of it with my Spellbinders die, and this is the square. And now I'm going to glue it to my bezel. So it's really comfortable working with the whole collection of Media Mixage because they all go together really well. So just distress the edges a little bit with Distress ink, and then I'm going to glue the paper on the inside of the bezel. You have to make sure you burnish it really well, because at the end of this process we're going to put some ice resin on it, and we don't want it to curl up, and we also want the glue to be dry so it won't mix with the ice resin. So just distress a little bit, and now I'm starting to add my steampunk embellishments, my metal embellishments, and all kinds of gears and clock parts and things to the cover. So this is my metal moon. These are some findings. There's a clock there and a spring, and these are gears from the bead landing. They come in all sizes. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start adding things inside my bezel and around it, and create a steampunk collage with all those stuff, with all those embellishments. Then I'm gonna add. You can use buttons, you can use gears and screws and whatever metal findings that you have. If you want to do steampunk like I do, so steampunk is supposed to be kind of a Victorian machine part theme to it. This is what steampunk is. So I'm trying to stay within the mechanical theme with all my embellishments that I'm adding. But of course you can take it to wherever you want with your notebook. So I'm adding stuff and creating a collage with more gears and cogwheels and small stuff that I'm adding. What's good about those gears that I showed you before from bead landing is that they're thin enough to cut with scissors. Now this is my treasured clock parts bonanza, and they're all real clock parts from old clocks that were taken apart. So I'm starting to add them into my bezel and adding more and more stuff to it. Gonna add the eye for the moon. It's kind of creepy moon, but this is the way I want it. It's not supposed to be cute. This is supposed to be kind of, like I said, a mechanical vibe to it. Adding one more layer to my eye there on the moon. And you just build up, you add one piece after piece after piece. You see this is a bit far along after I added all sorts of clock parts to it. And looking there for one piece that I'm looking for that I can't find. Just bear with me for a second and I'll find it. It's there somewhere. Oh, there it is. Got it. See, it's a clock face. So this is what I was looking for. I'm going to add some more of this into my collage. And what I'm doing, sometimes if the part is really small, then I don't put the glue on the part or on the embellishment. I'm gonna put the camera a little bit closer so you can see. I put a dot of glue on the place that I want to glue it, and then I put it on the glue. And I use tweezers. That's very helpful, because otherwise, see, this the really small parts. Otherwise it's really difficult to put the glue directly on the part, so this is an easier way of doing things. So, and it takes time until the glue dries, but not very long. And use tweezers, that really helps. Like I said before, see all kinds of screws and clock parts. I love this stuff. And it is very steampunky because this is all about working mechanics and movement of parts and things like that. Oops, it's cog wheels and springs and side stuff and things, and these are really real parts, so sometimes they're still one inside of the other, and that's really sometimes difficult to take them apart. But this is what's fun about it. It's really small pieces that really go well when you create this kind of a collage with them. So you just keep on adding whatever parts you have and whatever more that you want to add to your collage in whatever theme you decided to do it, because you doesn't have to be steampunk like I did, of course. And I think I'm just about done. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to add a few parts on the side there because it's really thick and I want it to go all the way. It's like spilling over my notebook. So I'm gonna add some pieces on the width of the cover there. Some bolts and a piece of whatever. Some of the pieces I don't even know what they are. You just buy a bulk of clock parts and you don't even know what they are. So it's kind of funny. You use parts I don't even recognize. But as long as they have nice shape, that's what's important to me. So now I'm going to take, this is a spray paint by Lindsay Stamp Gang. I'm not going to spray, I'm going to dip my brush into it and I'm going to just color all the paper that I see around the clock parts, because I want it to be a little bit darker but still transparent. I want to see the pattern of the paper, so I'm not using like acrylic paint because that would cover everything. That's why I'm using a spray paint, but as paint, not as spray. So this is a kind of a fun technique to dye something without using real paint, but just use the pigment and making things a little bit more dark but not covered. So that's the point. And I'm going to also use it to color the papers of the notebook on their side so they won't be so white and mess up the entire steampunk vibe that I have going on here. So I'm adding a little bit of that too to the sides and on the back. Now what I'm gonna do is dry it up a little bit with my heat tool, because I want to start filling everything with diamond glaze and ice resin. So I'm just adding a little bit of more brown with the distress ink. Just another, brown color for more nice look to it. This is diamond glaze and this is the ice resin. I love this. When you push the thing, then the two materials that create the ice resin come out in exactly the same amount. So it's very comfortable, it's very easy to use. You just press it and then you will have to mix it up for about a minute. Mix the two materials for a minute and then you have ice resin. So that is so easy to use. I really like it. When you mix it up, sometimes you have bubbles, so then you can just wait until they disappear, or if you still have bubbles, just pop them up with a pin or something. So now I'm going to fill my bezel with ice resin all the way to the top, and that will be really, really cool. You know, ice resin dries very, very clear. It looks like glass. And you don't have to worry about getting to all the little corners because it's really liquid. So if you just leave it, it will find its way to all the nooks and crannies and the corners and places that it need to go. You would have to wait about 24 hours for it to be completely dry, and then it's really beautiful the way it looks. It's also a really good way to create jewelry and stuff. So with my diamond glaze, I'm creating the same effect like the ice resin, but the diamond glaze is much thicker, so you can apply it on parts that don't have a frame around them to hold the liquid. So what I'm creating is like a glaze on top of some of the parts there, so they will be nice and shiny. And because the diamond glaze is thicker, then it won't run. I couldn't put ice resin on them because it will run all over the place, because the ice resin needs like a container to hold it, and a bezel is a sort of a container. That's why I put it there. And I use the diamond glaze for all the other stuff that I just want to have like a coat of shiny and clear cover on them. So that's the difference between ice resin and diamond glaze. Basically, they have the same effect. You just use them in different ways and for different stuff. So I'm just covering some of the stuff there. And also you would have to, and of course diamond glaze dries up much quicker than ice resin, plus you put much less of it, so the parts that are covered with diamond glaze will be ready much quicker and dry much quicker than the bezel that I put ice resin in. But anyway, you just wait a few hours and don't move it, so everything will see. Now it looks kind of white where I put the diamond glaze, but when it dries completely clear. And in the middle you can see the ice resin, which is already clear. When it dries, it would all be clear and transparent and look really, really beautiful. So this is my steampunk notebook, and now I can have journaling in there and all my ideas and my thoughts and my, you know, doodling and stuff in there, and I'll have a nice cover. And I bet you're wondering, well, it has to dry first, of course. I can't move it up to the camera to show you because I don't want to move it, but this is the project. Hope you really enjoyed it, and you're probably wondering who won the 1000 subbies giveaway on my YouTube channel. So the winner of that fabulous Prima Products giveaway is Penny Kitzmiller. Congratulations, dear. Send me your address so I can send it to you. So thank you very much for joining the giveaway and watching this project, and I see you all next time. Bye, you guys. Have a great